Welcome to my short series where I make reviews of ships in games. Well, it started with specific ships, but apparently we moved to all types of spaceships. It won't be long until I make fun of Elon Musk rockets too, but that's for another day. Thanks to Stargate Traveler 44021, or is it an L? We will look at There are legendary ships in sci-fi history, sleek and beautiful works of engineering that embodies power, precision, and also cutting-edge technology. There are also ships that radiate power and dominance, striking fear into anyone who dares to cross them. And then there is the Millennium Falcon, a ship that looks like it was built by someone who got halfway through the blueprint, spilled blue milk on it, and then just made up the rest as he went. Yeah, I gave up coming up with any blue liquid. Oh, now I got it! That blue stuff that you pour into the car that prevents the windshield from freezing. If you spill that on the blueprint, the moment's gone. This Corellian YT-1300 freighter is basically just a pile of mismatched parts, outdated technology, and absolutely zero symmetry. It looks like a dinner plate that someone put in the microwave for too long. No, it looks like that thing they found in the ocean not too long ago. It has a cockpit sticking out to the side. I'm not gonna say it, but we all know that that's dumb. It flies like it's constantly threatening to fall apart, but somehow still wins every chase. And yet, despite all of this, it is the most legendary starship in the science fiction history. If the Millennium Falcon had a motto, it would be, I may falling apart, but I'm still faster than you. So let's break down why the Millennium Falcon looks like a galactic scrapyard that barely holds it together, and still is one of the most beloved ships of all time. The first thing you notice about the Millennium Falcon is that it does not look like a spaceship. The body is a perfect circle if you squint your eyes a bit, but that is probably the worst shape for a space travel, unless you're a UFO. Oh man, then it's actually not that bad. The cockpit is just kind of dangling off to the side, making you wonder how Han Solo even sees where he's going. Why is it not centered? Why? Why the who knows? Maybe Han Solo wanted to make sure that his blind spots were extra dangerous, because he's a badass after all. The front of the ship has two giant mandibles, apparently to close the concussion missile tubes, but I've never seen that happening. And what kind of rebels uses concussion as a weapon? Sounds pretty lame to me. Then again, the ship was built to haul cargo, smuggle spices, while offend anyone with an appreciation for ship design like me. There is no reason this ship should be functional. There's no reason this ship should be fast. And yet, here it is, outrunning Star Destroyers and making the Kessel Run in 12 parsecs. This ship is the ultimate proof that style does not matter if you got raw, unstoppable speed. The cockpit of the Falcon is one of the weirdest design choices in all of sci-fi. As we said before, it's not centered, because apparently it was not built by a grown-ass person. The view from the pilot seat is awkwardly limited, because why not make Han Solo's job harder? The hallway leading to it is so narrow that Chewbacca probably had to duck every time he walks in. This should be a massive design flaw. The ship also barely believes in gravity. I mean, considering how often it nearly falls apart, and all of this should make piloting the Falcon a nightmare. And yet, there is something undeniably cool about seeing that asymmetrical cockpit, knowing that the second Han and Chewie pull those hyperspace levels, it's game over for whoever's chasing them. The Falcon turns its weird, off-balance design into an instantly recognizable icon. It has more exposed wires and panels than a DIY electronics project gone wrong, and that is why we love it. Now, Han Solo loves to remind everyone that the Millennium Falcon is the fastest ship in the galaxy, allegedly, when it actually works. The hyperdrive breaks down at least once per movie, sometimes multiple times. It kinda needs to be punched, rewired, or bribed into functioning properly, or face that babe from The Last Skywalker. Now, if you ask me, the hyperdrive is way too powerful for its frame. It should be exploding every time they punch it, but it just keeps going. Half the time, the Falcon only escapes danger because Chewbacca growls at the engine, scaring it into working again. And yet, despite constantly threatening to betray its crew, the Falcon is still unbeatable when it's running at full power. It somehow did the Kessel Run in 12 parsecs, but honestly, that just sounds like bad math. The ship doesn't win because it's well maintained. This ship wins because it got so much raw speed that the universe just accepted. The Falcon reminds us that sometimes the fastest thing are also the most unpredictable, and that makes every hyperspace jump feel like a miracle. Now for a ship designed to haul cargo, the Falcon is sure armed like a paranoid hoarder who thinks that the government is coming for its spice collection. It has 2 quad laser cannons, which is honestly overkill for something that was supposed to be a fighter, but it does make short work of the TIE fighters. It also has those concussion missile tubes if the rebels just want to tap the Empire on their head a little bit. Now the deflector shields should not be this strong. Somehow this ship tanks hits like a battleship despite looking like it's made out of aluminum foil, and the gunner seats are in separate parts of the ship. I'm baffled about this. Why make the communication in the middle of a battle a total nightmare? Maybe I'm wrong, maybe the Dixie Cups have Starlink connection, but this also making it physically impossible for the crew to high five after a good shot. Now if that's not a bad thing, then you have never been in a battle. Despite this, it can single-handedly take down enemy ships that should absolutely outclass it. This ship was never meant to be a war machine, this ship was never meant to take down the Empire, and yet, time and time again, the Falcon proves that it can fight with the best of them. When Han Solo and his crew take control, this ship is a force to be reckoned with, and that is why it's legendary. Look, I love the Falcon, I actually really do. But if you thought that the outside of the Millennium Falcon looked rough, then inside is somehow even worse. The walls are covered in exposed wires, because apparently fixing those is too much work. The floor panels randomly falls off, which is great if you want a surprise maintenance project mid-flight. This is also the areas where they always hide when the enemies board the ship, which would not be the place that I would hide in. Now the entire ship is basically held together by duct tape, hope and Wookiee strength. It's kind of the Minmatar ship in Star Wars, and yet it's still one of the most comfortable and most memorable places in the Star Wars universe. But not in EVE. We rather fly the classic ships rather than Minmatar. No? No? Okay. I meant the opposite. Anything for that like on this video. Now, the Falcon isn't sleek, but it has charm. The Falcon isn't pristine, but it has character. The Falcon feels real, like a place that has history, adventure, and stories hidden in every corner. This is not just a ship. It's a home. And that is why it's special. Also, if the Millennium Falcon was a living space, it would be a trailer home with electrical problems that somehow wins House of the Year because the owner is just that cool. For all its flaws, the broken parts and the impossible design choices, the Millennium Falcon is the most legendary ship in science fiction. It has saved the galaxy more times than we can count. It took down the second Death Star with nothing but guts, luck, and the willingness to ignore safety regulations. It has fought battles, it has no business winning. It has inspired a generation of fans, providing that sometimes the scrappiest ship is the coolest one. It outran Imperial fleets, despite constantly threatening to explode. The Falcon shouldn't be famous. The Falcon shouldn't be feared. This ship should have been sold for scrap to the Javas decades ago, but it's still cheering every time it roars into battles. It is proof that you do not need to be perfect to be the best. The Millennium Falcon is not here to impress you with sleek design. The Millennium Falcon is not here to be perfect. It is here to remind us that the underdog still can win, even if it flies like it has a personal vendetta against maintenance checks. It is a flying scrapyard that somehow outruns the fastest ships. It is a freighter that somehow wins dogfights against trained pilots. It is a disaster waiting to happen, but it's also the coolest ship in the galaxy. If the Star Destroyer is an unstoppable war machine, and the TIE Fighter is a screaming metal death trap, and the Slave One is a floating space guillotine, then the Millennium Falcon is the beat-up, duct-taped, fire-breathing muscle car that somehow wins every street race. If the Falcon were an EVE Online, it would be that one ridiculously overfit, jury-rigged ship that somehow wins fight it has no business in winning. It's the kind of ship that looks like a meme on the killboard, but turns out to be an absolute menace when flown by a madman. Basically, hating on the Millennium Falcon is like complaining that your grandpa's beat-up old car still wins street races. It's ugly, it's unpredictable, but it's always leave you in the dust. She may not look like much, but she got it where it counts. Long live the fastest, most unpredictable hunk of junk in the galaxy. And that, my friends, makes it one of the ugliest ships in the sci-fi universe. Like the video if you want more, subscribe, or I will talk trash about the ship that you love. And I see you guys again.